जो की जाय नित्य प्रविष्टों विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज की जाय नित्य प्रविष्टों विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जाय नित्य प्रविष्टों विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् श्रील भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाय नित्य प्रविष्टों विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोस्वामी महाराज की जाय नित्य प्रविष्टं विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जाय नित्य प्रविष्ट महाभगवत श्रील गोक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जाय नित्य प्रविष्ट श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाय नित्य प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जाय श्री रूपानुगौरी गुरु वर्ग की जाय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जाय श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जाय नाम अक्षय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जाय सर्व अभिष्ट विदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाय श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जाय श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जाय श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जाय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय श्री निताय गौर ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय सारार्थ-दार्शिनी वृत्ति की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Alright. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swaminitti Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravrajantam Krityam Dvaipayano Virahaka Tara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedus Tang Sarvabhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Shrindvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshvavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshai Kshiptastakama Ditaranga Madhye Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, everybody. Pradyumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Indira Mataji, who will be watching later on, Ganga Mataji. Pradyumna Prabhu, I don't know anything. I know zilch about the Radha Tantra. You've asked me about Radha Tantra a lot, but you've been the one who's been studying it. I don't know. I've never seen it mentioned even. So, yeah, I can't answer anything. Yeah. Haribo, Rohit Radha Krishnanji, and Gopi Kant Prabhu. Do we use mudras in Gauḍīya ritual? Not so often, no. But there are some, like a couple things in Archandipika that we use, but generally, no, we don't use mudras. There's what's it? This one, the Ankush Mudra, that one. Whoops, it looks like you're flicking somebody off. But yeah, that's what it is. And then there's, I've seen one time a devotee do this one, the udder one. How do you do it? Like you do the udder like that. But no, generally we don't use mudras. Okay, so let's continue on with our Srimad Bhagavatam reading. I'm going to go to Bhagavat Pravaha. Okay, I'm not going to read the full Uddhava-gīta because we've already gone through it so many times. But the first section is Krishna speaks about equal vision, becoming one's own guru. That's the way he talks about the 24 gurus, right? The process of disentanglement, the nature of fruitive activity, conditioned and liberated souls, the bhakta and best bhakti, the power of devotee association, the role of knowledge, the role of yoga. Actually, let's read from this point, the role of knowledge. Okay, Krishna so far gave the gradual progression of the process of disentanglement as varnashram, nishkam karma yoga, surrendering to a bona fide guru, and then one-pointed devotion to him. Seeing Uddhava undecided, Krishna advised conclusively, one must use the axe of knowledge cultivated under the guru and cut this tree-like universe made of Maya with its various flowers and real happiness and distress. Knowledge is awakened by the practice and principles in the mode of goodness. By the practice of principles in the mode of goodness. By cultivating goodness, one can conquer the lower modes. Ultimately, one must give up the axe of knowledge too and become exclusively fixed in complete devotion to me. The role of yoga. Having heard about knowledge, Uddhava then asked Krishna, human beings experience that material life repeatedly brings suffering, yet they try to enjoy materially. Why is this so? Krishna replied, due to misidentifying oneself with the material body and mind, the conditioned soul develops false knowledge. This misidentification and false knowledge afflicts one with unbearable material desires. Once, the four Kumaras had asked Brahma how to destroy the mutual relationship between the sense objects and the mind. Brahma couldn't answer it, but fixed his mind on me. I then appeared as Hamsa, the swan incarnation, to explain Sankhya, by which one philosophically distinguishes matter from spirit. The mind and sense objects are merely designations that cover the spirit soul. Their mutual attraction is due to constant sense gratification. Being dedicated to me, one can renounce the mind, sense objects, and the false ego that causes material bondage. Bhakti, the supreme path. Uddhava asked Krishna, sages recommend various processes based on the Vedas. Are all of them equally important, or is one of them supreme? Krishna replied, I manifest in the sound vibration of the Vedas. But in course of time, due to the interpretations of many kinds of people, piety and penance seemingly became seen as the topmost spiritual practices. Piety and penance became seen as the topmost spiritual practices. Though it is only devotion which can purify one's consciousness completely and make one desire nothing but me. Such devotion brings me under the control of my devotee. I follow their footsteps, and with the dust of their feet, I purify the material worlds. Different methods like Ashtanga Yoga, Sankhya, piety, nonviolence, Vedic chanting, and so on cannot bring me under control. Now, this is where we read up to Ashtanga Yoga, Siddhis, and Vibhutis. Uddhava then asked the Lord about mystic perfections. Uddhava wanted to know this process, not to practice it, but only to increase his appreciation for bhakti through comparison. Kṛṣṇa explained, the process of Ashtanga Yoga constitutes of 8 types of practice by which one attains mystic perfections, siddhis. There are 18 types of siddhis, like anima, are becoming smaller than the smallest, mahima, are becoming bigger than the biggest, and so on. All the siddhis are ultimately futile and are impediments and a waste of time for one who practices the supreme yoga of bhakti. So we're going to read about that now. Okay, I think we read up to 6, right? Let me just check really quick. We read up to 6. Okay. The Supreme Lord said, "My dear Uddhava, when a yogi has controlled his senses, conquered his breathing process, steadied his mind, and concentrated his mind on me, then all mystic perfections automatically appear to him." One second. Sorry, I was late this morning. I didn't take my Ayurvedic medicine. Okay. Sri Uddhava said, "My dear Lord Achyuta, you alone are the bestower of all types of mystic perfections. Kindly tell me, by what process can the mystic perfections be achieved? How many types of mystic perfections are there? And what is the nature of each mystic perfection?" The Supreme Lord said, "The sages who yoga have declared that there are 18 kinds of siddhi, mystic perfection, and dharana, meditation. Among these, 8 are primary, being sheltered in me, and 10 are secondary, appearing from the material mode of goodness. Anima, becoming smaller than the smallest, mahima, becoming greater than the greatest, and laghima, becoming lighter than the lightest, are mystic perfections by which one transforms one's body. Prapti-siddhi, by which one acquires whatever one desires, is related to the senses. Prakamya-siddhi enables one to experience any enjoyable object in this world and the next. Ishita-siddhi enables one to manipulate the sub-potencies of Maya. Vashita-siddhi enables one to be unimpeded by the 3 modes of nature. Kama-vasayita-siddhi enables one to obtain anything he may desire. My dear Uddhava, these 8 siddhis are considered as naturally existing and unexcelled within this world." Okay, so now we're reading from this point on. Text 6 to 7. Anurmimatvam dehesmin durashravana-darshanam manojava kamarupam parakaya praveshanam swachandra mrityur devanam saha kridanudarshanam yatha sankalpa samsiddhir agya pratihatagati. The 10 secondary mystic siddhis produced from the modes of material nature are the power to free oneself from hunger and thirst, to hear and see things happening in a distant place, to move one's body at the speed of the mind, to assume any form one desires, the bodies of others, to die according to one's will, to witness the pastimes of the demigods with the apsaras, to act however one desires, and to give orders whose fulfillment is unimpeded. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. The 10 secondary mystic perfections are herein described. These powers award one freedom from the 6 urges of the body, such as hunger and thirst. Seeing and hearing what is happening in a distant place, durdarshan, moving the body at the speed of the mind, assuming the form of one's choice, witnessing the pleasure pastimes of the demigods and celestial women, attaining whatever one desires, and the carrying out of one's orders without impediment. Trikala gyatamad advandvam parachityadabhigyata agnyarkambo vishadinam pratishtambo parajaya etascho deshata prokta yoga dharana siddhaya yaya dharanaya yasyar yatavasya nibodhame. The power to know past, present, and future, tolerance of dualities such as heat and cold, to know others' minds, checking the influence of fire, sun, water, poison, and so on, and to remain undefeated by others. These constitute 5 perfections attained by the practice of yoga and meditation. I have simply listed them here, giving their names and characteristics. Now, please hear from me about how one attains a particular siddhi by performing a specific meditation. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary. The following are considered to be insignificant siddhis: knowing past, present, and future, not becoming overwhelmed by the dualities such as heat and cold, not checking the influence of fire, sun, poison, and so on. And checking the influence of fire, sun, poison, and so on. That sounds like a pretty cool, knowing past, present, and future. Okay, Gauḍīya Bhāṣya commentary by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī, Prabhupāda. Knowledge of past, present, and future, being undisturbed by heat and cold, understanding the intentions of others, neutralization of the powers of fire, the sun, water, poison, and so on, be unconquerable. These are 5 insignificant perfections. Bhuta shukshmatmani mayi tanmatram dharayin mana animanam avapnoti tanmatro pasako mama. One who fixes his mind on me in my atomic form, which pervades all subtle elements, worshipping that form alone, attains the mystic perfection known as anima siddhi. That's becoming as small as an atom, right? Or smaller than the smallest. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord possesses a tiny form whereby he resides within the atoms and atomic particles. One who can concentrate his mind on the Supersoul can obtain the mystic power called anima, which enables one to enter within any material object. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Wow, thank you everybody for waiting so long. I don't even know how long I was reading. I just was reading and reading and reading, and then I went back and checked and I saw that I was offline. So, God, I don't even know where to read from now. Okay, thanks for waiting so long though, really. Was I on? Okay, I'm gonna just I'll read from this one. Text 10. Bhuta shukshmatmani mayi tanmatram dharayen mana animanam avapnoti tanmatro pasako mamam. One who fixes his mind on me in my atomic form, which pervades all subtle elements, worshipping that form alone, attains the mystic perfection known as anima siddhi. Do you remember me reading that? I'm just going to make a little note for people in the WhatsApp group. I'm back online again. Okay. Bhuta shukshmatmani mai. Yeah, so do you remember me reading that already? Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord possesses a tiny form whereby he resides within the atoms and atomic particles. One who can concentrate his mind on the Supersoul can obtain the mystic power called anima, which enables one to enter within any material object. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Supreme Lord has covered the godless living entities with gross and subtle material designations made of the illusory energy. If one desires to free his mind from the gross material designations, then he must meditate on the subtle form of the Lord. Those who worship the Lord as he is situated within the subtle forms of sense objects can achieve the anima siddhi. Mahat tattvatmani mayi yatha sangstam anudadat mahimanam avapnoti bhutanam cha pratak pratak. Nobody said anything, so I'm guessing I'm reading from the right place. One who concentrates his mind on the Lord as he is situated in the Mahat Tattva as the supersoul of the total material elements can obtain the mystic perfection called Mahima. By absorbing the mind in the existence of each element, one can obtain their potencies. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is The Supreme Personality of Godhead is in one sense non-different from the material creation. Considering this, one can meditate upon the Mahat Tattva as a subtle manifestation of the Lord's inferior potency. When one has actually realized that the universe is non-different from the Lord, he obtains the mystic perfection known as Mahima Siddhi. When one can realize the Lord's presence within each of the material elements, he obtains their potency. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. One who meditates upon the Lord as a supersoul of the total material existence, or the Mahat Tattva, can attain the mystic perfection called Mahima Siddhi. By realizing how the Mahat Tattva is not different from the Supreme Lord, being the expansion of his energy, one can experience his presence. One can experience his presence within each element. Water. Sorry guys, I don't know what's wrong with me. One can experience the Lord's presence within each of the elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. This awards one the siddhi of Mahima. Haribo Sudevi Didi. Paramanu maye chittam bhutanam mairanjayan kala shukshmar tatam yogi laghimanam avapnuyat. By fixing the mind on me as I am situated within everything, and thus the essence of the atomic constituents of the material elements, a yogi can attain the mystic perfection called laghima, which enables him to become as light as an atom. Sārārtha-darśinī. Kala, or time, is the form of the Lord that moves the material world. The 5 gross elements are composed of atoms, and atomic particles are a subtle manifestation of the movements of time. The personality of Godhead is more subtle than time, and it is He who expands to become the time factor. By understanding this, one obtains the mystic power known as Laghima Siddhi, whereby he can become lighter than the lightest. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. If the yogi fixes his mind in meditation on the subtle characteristics of the material elements, understanding them to be the energetic expansions of the Supreme Lord, he can attain the Laghima Siddhi. Those who are not devoted to the Supreme Lord will only achieve an illusory fragment of this mystic potency, however. Dharayan mayaham tattve manovaikārike kilam sarvendriyanam atmatvam praptim prapnoti manmana. One who meditates on me as situated within the else ego as generated from the mode of goodness, attains the siddhi called prapti, by which one gains mastery over everyone's senses. Whoa. So how do you get that? When you meditate on the Lord as situated within the element of false ego. Okay. A false ego? Ahankar. Okay. Sārārtha-darśinī. The yogi who fixes his mind on the Lord as he is situated within the false ego can attain the power whereby he can acquire any object he desires. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. By reviving one's relationship with the absolute personality of Godhead, all of one's senses becomes engaged in the service of the master of the senses. This is the essence of understanding the mystic perfection called prapti. Those who try to attain mystic powers without meditating on the Supreme Lord are awarded a mere reflection of these siddhis. Because they are not in union with the Lord through devotion, they cannot partake of his mystic potencies, which are of cosmic proportions, and thus must be satisfied with mere reflections of those powers. 14. Mahatyatmaniya sutre dharayen manasam prakamyam parameshtyam me vindate vyakta janmana. One who concentrates his mind on me as the supersoul of that aspect of the Mahatattva that manifests the wheel of karma obtains from me. So that person who meditates on the supersoul that manifests the wheel of karma, that aspect of the Mahatattva that manifests the wheel of karma, obtains from me, who is beyond material perception, the mystic perfection called prakamya. Sārārtha-darśinī. The aspect of the Mahatattva that produces a cycle of action and reaction is herein referred to as sutra. By fixed meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the soul of the Mahatattva, one can achieve the most excellent perfection called prakamya. This opulence is especially employed by Brahma. Avyakta Janmana indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears from the avyakta, or the spiritual sky, or that his birth is avyakta, beyond the perception of material senses. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who mistakenly consider the Mahatattva to be more important than Hiranyagarbha claim to have achieved the mystic perfection called prakamya. Those who have actually attained prakamya siddhi Okay, this is so frustrating. I'm going to just use my mobile data. I don't know when it cut out again, so I guess I'll just go back one verse. Has it been cut out for a really long time? Anyhow, yeah, let me just... I don't have my light on, that's the problem. When the light, then I know when the light goes off. Okay, I'm gonna just read this one again. Text 15. Vishnotradishvare chitam dharayet kala vigrahe sa ishi tvam avapnoti kshetra gya kshetra chodanam. One who meditates on my form as Lord Vishnu, the Supersoul, the personification of time, and the controller of the three modes of material nature, attains the siddhi called Ishitva, by which he can control the material bodies of others, along with their designations. Sārārtha-darśinī. The illusory energy of the Lord, which consists of the three modes of material nature, is under the control of time. By meditating on this form of the Supreme Lord, one can obtain the Ishitva siddhi. This siddhi enables one to exert his influence over the bodies of other conditioned souls. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Supreme Lord's illusory potency consists of three modes of material nature, and it works fully under the supervision of time, which has also emanated from him. The supersoul of the manifested material elements is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Liberated souls absorbed in meditation upon the Supersoul attain the Ishita siddhi without separate endeavor. Those who consider the form of the Lord to be a manifestation of the three modes of material nature, and thus a product of matter under the control of eternal time, and consider themselves to be one in identity with the Supersoul, those people are understood to be bereft of all knowledge. Because of this, they cannot discriminate between the Lord who is Maya Dish, the controller of Maya, and the Maya Vash Jivas, the Jivas who are under the control of Maya. The hopes of such persons to master the Ishitva siddhi is simply another manifestation of illusion. Narayane turiyakye bhagavat shabda shabdite mano maya dadhar yogi madharma vashitam iyat. A yogi who meditates on my form of Narayan, who is full of 6 opulences and who is fully transcendental, becomes endowed with my nature and thus achieves the Vashita siddhi. Sārārtha-darśinī. Here the word Turiya, or the 4th dimension, refers to the personality of Godhead who is beyond the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. He is known as Lord Narayan and possessing all 6 opulences in full. By fixing one's mind on him, one can attain the mystic perfection called Vashita. The Lord is known as Bhagavan, or the possessor of unlimited opulences, principally wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Oh my God. Okay, Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. When a yogi realizes that all the objects of a relationship of service with the Supreme Lord, he surpasses materialistic conceptions such as length, breadth, height, and so on. And he becomes situated in transcendence. This is a platform of knowledge of one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. While situated on the transcendental platform, such a yogi controls his senses, mind, and speech, and thus attains the siddhi known as Vashita. Those who are servants of their bodily urges and thus come under the control of sense objects, even though they may advertise themselves as liberated souls, can never attain the Vashita siddhi. Nirgune brahmani mai dharayan vishadan mana paramanandamat apnoti yatra kamo vasiyate. One who meditated upon the impersonal Brahman, which is a partial manifestation of the Absolute Truth, will attain happiness beyond material conception, and all his desires will be fulfilled. Sārārtha-darśinī. Merging into the existence of Brahman is possible only when all material desires have ceased. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. When a conditioned living entity comes in contact with the three modes of material nature, he exhibits various kinds of material desires. When the conditioned soul engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the reservoir of all transcendental qualities and who is situated beyond the modes of material nature, then all his material desires are vanquished, just as fog is dispelled as soon as the sun rises. The Kama Vasayita Siddhi is obtained when one dovetails all of his desires in the service of the eternal Kamdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shvetadvipa pato chittam shuddhe dharma maye mayi dharayan shve tatam yati shad urmi rahito nara. One who fixes his mind on my form as a predominating deity of the mode of goodness, the upholder of religious principles, and the Lord of Shvetadvip, that person obtains a purified form and freedom from the 6 waves of material disturbance. He attains freedom from the 6 waves of material disturbance: hunger, thirst, decay, death, grief, and illusion. Sārārtha-darśinī. In this verse, Lord Krishna begins his description of how one can attain the 10 secondary mystic perfections. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. By engaging in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to the material modes of nature, who is the form of the pure religious principles, and who is the Lord of Shvetadvip, all of the contaminations in one's heart becomes cleansed. The Absolute Truth is the embodiment of pure goodness, and he is the predominating deity of the mode of goodness. By directing one's heart toward the service of the Lord, one becomes purified, so that the black spot of I am God can no longer cause contamination. Maya kashatmani prane manasa ghoshamudvahan tatra palabdha bhutanam hangso vacha shrinotyaso. If a purified transcendentalist meditates on the extraordinary sound vibrations occurring within me as a personified sky and total life air, then he is able to perceive within the sky the speaking of all living entities. Wow, that's a neat one. That is so cool. Sārārtha-darśinī. By meditating on the transcendental sound vibration, Omkar, one can achieve the mystic perfection of being able to hear the words of the living entities that are spread in the sky. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. In the Ekayan worship of the Paramahamsas, chanting the holy name of the Lord is considered to be the most important activity. It is the duty of all living entities to receive the transcendental sound vibration of the Absolute Truth. When all words are aimed at glorifying the Supreme Lord, one becomes able to hear the speech originating from liberated living entities far beyond the material universe. Liberated souls can visualize reality simply by the reception of the transcendental sound vibration. Wow. So you'll be able to hear Harikatha going on in Siddhaloka or in like that, right? Chakshus tvashtari samyojya tvashtaram api chakshushi mam tatra manasa dhyayan Vishvam pashyati durata. While engaging in meditation on me as existing within the combined form of the sun and vision, one can merge one's sight into the sun, and then the sun into one's eyes. One can acquire the power to see any distant thing. Wow. Sārārtha-darśinī. There is an intimate relationship between the sun and the process of vision. You know, Tirthapada Prabhu, he actually did a whole exercise of looking at the morning sun, and there's some process that he did, but all he had to do was look at the morning sun. And just by doing that, he was able to cure his eyes and he didn't have to use glasses anymore. He used to wear glasses all the time, and now he doesn't. And he never underwent any surgery or anything. So the sun and the process of vision are inseparable and are pervaded by the presence of the Supreme Lord and his all-pervading feature as a supersoul. Here, the process for attaining mystic perfection that enables one to see objects even though they are very distant is being described. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. While casting one's glance upon Lord Narayan as he is situated within the sun globe, if, in reciprocation, one receives the auspicious glance of the Lord, one will see through purified vision that the objects of this world are meant for the Lord's enjoyment and not for one's personal sense gratification. Without receiving the Lord's glance, one will see the world as either meant for one's enjoyment or as the object of dry renunciation. Manomayi susamyojya deham taranuvayuna madharana anubhavena tatratma yatra vaimana. When one completely absorbs his mind in me by meditation and then utilizes the air that carries the mind, he can attain the mystic power that allows him to travel in a moment to anywhere he desires. Sārārtha-darśinī. This verse states that there is an air that adheres to the mind. When one absorbs this air along with the mind in meditation upon the Supreme Lord, his gross material body will be enabled to travel at the speed of mind to any destination he desires. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. When the yogi comes to see everything in relationship to Kṛṣṇa, then his mind will entertain no other thoughts than his engagement in devotional service. In that transcendental state, one loses all interest in attempts to enjoy gross material objects. This is the prerequisite for attaining genuine mystic perfections. Yadamana upadaya yad rupam babhushati tat bhavin manorupam madyoga balamashraya. When a yogi desires to assume a particular form by applying his mind in that way, that form will appear before him. Such a mystic perfection is possible by meditating upon the inconceivable potency by which I assume various transcendental forms. Sārārtha-darśinī. If the mind desires to assume the form of a demigod, it can do so by transforming itself as the ingredient cause. If the yogi concentrates his mind on the Supreme Lord as prescribed in this verse, he can assume any form he desires. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Shri Gaurasundar has said, Anyara hridayaman morman vrindavan mane vane eka kori jani taha tomar padadvai kora ho jadi udoy tabe tomar purna kripa mani. For most people, the mind and heart are one. But because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. My mind is already Vrindavan, and since you like Vrindavan, will you please place your lotus feet there? I would deem that your full mercy. It's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 13:137. This mystic power is called Kama Rupa, or the ability to assume any form one desires. The pure devotees absorb their minds in a particular relationship with Lord Kṛṣṇa, and thus a spiritual body is awarded to them for an eternal life in the Lord's association. In this age, anyone who faithfully chants the holy names of Lord Kṛṣṇa and follows the regulative principles as instructed by the spiritual master can attain an eternal form in the supreme abode of the Lord. Parakayam vishansiddha atmanam tatra bhavayet pindam hitva vishet prano vayubhuta shodangrivat. A yogi who desires to enter another body should meditate upon himself as being situated in that body. As a bumblebee easily goes from one flower to another, a yogi, with the help of his subtle body, can enter another body through the path of the air. Sārārtha-darśinī. To enter into the body of another person, a yogi must relinquish his gross body and, with the help of his subtle body, enter that body through the pathways of external air. It is something like a bumblebee which travels from one flower to another. The city of entering another's body is called Parakaya Praveshanam. That's a little creepy. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. One may admire a heroic man or beautiful woman and desire to experience life within their extraordinary material body. One can enter the body of another person by availing himself of the mystic perfection called Parakaya Praveshanam. However, pure devotees are never attracted to any kinds of material body, knowing that even in the topmost planet there is material misery and death. Instead, they remain satisfied on the platform of eternal life. The spiritual air transfers a devotee to Goloka Vrindavan. The spiritual air transfers a devotee to Goloka Vrindavan, where he eternally engages in the Lord's service as a member of his entourage. Okay. Parshnyad pidya gudam pranam hridura kantamurdhasu aropya brahmarendrena brahmanitvo srijet tanum. To achieve the mystic perfection called Svachanda Mrityu, a yogi should block his anus with the heel of his foot and then gradually lift the soul, along with the life air, from the heart to the chest, then to the neck, and finally to the head. Situated within the Brahmarandra, the yogi then gives up his material body and guides the spirit soul to his desired destination. Sārārtha-darśinī. One who has attained the mystic perfection of Svecha Mrityu, the ability to die at will, can guide his soul, along with the life air, to either the impersonal Brahman or to any destination within the material world through the Brahmarandra, by giving up his material body while blocking the anus with the heel of the foot. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Since the practice of giving up the body as described in this verse by means of perfection in the practice of Hatha Yoga or Raja Yoga cannot enable one to surpass the kingdom of mundane existence, it is sensible to accept everything favorable for the practice of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. If one cultivates Kṛṣṇa consciousness within his heart while giving up all thoughts of sense gratification, thus detaching himself from the desire for material enjoyment, and giving up the propensity for either enjoying or renouncing the fruits of his karma while engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord, then that person will automatically attain this mystic perfection. Viharishyan surakride matstam sattvam vibhavayet vimane no patishtanti sattva vritti surastriya. One who desires to enjoy life in the celestial gardens of the demigods should meditate upon the mode of purified goodness, which is situated within me. When he becomes fixed in this meditation, heavenly damsels that are generated from the mode of goodness will approach him riding in their celestial chariots. Sārārtha-darśinī. One of the mystic perfections available to the yogi enables him to enjoy with the celestial damsels in heaven. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. In order to remain aloof from the propensity of imitating the spirit of sense enjoyment after seeing sensual activities in a movie or among the lower animals, one's heart must become captivated by the Supreme Lord's Ras-lila pastimes. Even the spirit of enjoyment that celestial women can arouse in the heart of a yogi can be transformed in this way. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham dehamastita bhajate tadrishi krida yashrutva tatparo bhavit. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-36. When the Lord assumes a human-like body to show mercy to his devotees, he engages in such pastimes as will attract those who hear about them to become dedicated to him. This transformation is only possible when one has come to an advanced stage of yogic perfection. In that advanced stage, there is no question of imitating the Lord for one's personal sense gratification. Rather, the perfected yogi's only desire is to serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. This is an example of an eternal siddhi. Okay, so we'll continue reading from verse 26 tomorrow. Just read this translation. One who has implicit faith in me and thus concentrates his mind upon me, knowing that my determination is never frustrated, will have all his desires fulfilled by the very means he has adopted. All right, so we'll finish off the rest of the mystic perfections tomorrow. But it's very interesting, huh? How it's only a devotee who actually has these mystic perfections in full. Everybody else just gets like some kind of semblance of them. And the devotee doesn't even use them, even though he has them. All right, so like I've been doing every day now, I'm going to do Jaidvani now, and then for those who want to stay, we will sing the Keshavashtakam by Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī. Oh, and Pradyumna Ru said Adi Shankaracharya entered into Mishra's body. Interesting. Okay. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandhar Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashvatara Shata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashvatara Shata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashvatara Shata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupāda ki Jai. Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashvatara Shata Shishimar Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Srila Gaurkishoras Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki Jai. Nitya Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Rupa Anugariya Guru Varga ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopala Bhatta Dashagunath Sharada Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai. Nama Jai Shri Hari Das Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradati Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund ki Jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Shri Uddhava-gīta ki Jai. Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Thakur Sārārtha-darśinī Vritti ki Jai. Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Gauḍīya Bhāṣya ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Nitāya Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Nava Shri Keshavashtakam by Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī. Nava Priya Kamanjari Rachita Karna Pura Shriyam Vinidratara Malati Kalita Shekare No Jvalam Taroj Vasita Yutika Kratita Valgo Vaikakshakam Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Pishangi Manikastani Pranata Shingi Pinge Kṣṇe Mridanga Mukhi Dhumale Shavali Vangshi Priye Iti Sasura Vikulam Taralamavayantam Muda Vraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Kana Pranayame Duran Madura Narma Goshti Kala Vilasa Nilayan Nilar Vivida Vesha Vidyotina Sakhina Kila Saraya Patishuhasayantam Gira Avraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Shamambukanika Vali Daravili Dagandantaram Samuragiri Dhatubir Likita Charupantram Puram Udancharali Mandali Dyuti Vidambi Vakralaka Vraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Nibaddha Navatarnaka Vali Vilokanotkanthaya Ṭhākura Putanchalayar Alugubhir Bhuvan Dindatim Kalena Dhavala Ghatam Lagu Nirvartayantam Puro Vraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Padankatati-bhiram Virachayantam advashiyam Chalataralanaichiki Nichaya dhuli dhumrasrajam Marullahari chanchali Krita dukula churanchalam Vraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Vilasa Murali Kala Dvani Birulasan Manasa Kṣṇara Kila Balavi Pulakayantamantar Grihe Muhur Vidatatang Hridi Pramuditancha Goshteshvare Praje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Upetya Pati Sundari Tati Birabhirabhyarchitam Smitam Kurakaram Pitai Natarapanga Bhangi Shatai Sthanastava Sanchara Nayana Chanchari Kanchala Vraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Idam Nikila Ballavi Kula Mahotsavollasanam Kramena Kilaya Puman Patati Shushtupadashtakam Tam Ujvala Diyam Sada Nijapadaravinda-dvaye Ratim Dadada Chanchalam Sukayatar Vishaka Sakha Vraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Vraje Vijayinam Paje Vipinadeshata Keshavam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Bihari Ji ki Diwani. Hare Krishna. So I will see you all tomorrow to finish off this chapter and read a bit of the next chapter. And 1 second, I'm just showing what tithis are coming up. So Akshay Tritiya is the day after tomorrow. Janu Saptami is in 6 days. Janava Devi and Sita Devi's appearance day is in 8 days. Madhu Pandit's disappearance day is also in 8 days. Mohini Ekadashi is in 10 days. And Nrsimha Chaturdashi is now in less than 2 weeks, 13 days from now. Right, Hari Bol, everybody. See you all tomorrow.